Are you getting numbness and tingling going down your palm into your hands? You might be dealing with carpal tunnel syndrome. Let us show you how to fix this today. Hey Rehab, welcome back to the channel. Dr. Arash here, and today we're going to explore how to address that carpal tunnel syndrome. We will cover 6 effective exercises to manage pain and function, so stick with us until the end. Before we get going, let's jump into what carpal tunnel truly is. The carpal tunnel refers to the space between the carpal bones of the hand and the transverse ligament of the wrist. Through this narrow space, 9 tendons as well as the median nerve travel into the hand. The median nerve is in charge of the sensation of the inner part of the palm, the first 3 fingers, and the half of the 4th finger. It also innervates motor function to the muscles of the thumb as well as the index and middle finger. The median nerve can become entrapped and irritated due to muscle, tendon, or joint stiffness. Most of these mobility deficits are found in the hand, wrist, and elbow. Though stiffness all the way up from the cervical spine can also play an important role. Risk factors for carpal tunnel syndrome include repetitive motions of the hand and wrist, computer use, or forceful work demands. More than half of cases will present bilaterally, meaning they're present on both sides, and symptoms often get worse throughout the day or at night. Difficulty picking up objects or frequently dropping objects are also associated symptoms. People will often flick their wrist and hand in rapid manner to alleviate that symptom. This is referred to as having a positive flick sign. It's important to avoid activities that tension that neurovascular bundle, such as push-ups, or postures that compress that carpal tunnel syndrome, such as sleeping with the wrist curled. Be aware that nerve pain is often delayed. You may not feel the symptoms for a few hours after exposure. Keeping an activity log or journal can help you track your symptoms to begin finding patterns which can help alleviate that symptom. If you're having symptoms at night or with computer use, you can use a wrist orthosis, which may be a valuable option for pain management. Now that we understand some of the anatomy, symptoms, causes, and self-management strategies, let's dive into the exercises that address carpal tunnel syndrome. We break these up into 3 different buckets: proximal mobility, local mobility, and then nerve mobility. Let's start with proximal mobility. Let's start with proximal mobility addressing the tissues of the neck. Why this is important is because those nerves that go into the hands actually originate from the neck. So stiffness here can create restrictions downstream. So what I have here is a peanut. I'm gonna place this at the base of my skull and go down towards my neck, towards that mid-back area. So this whole region here is what I wanna focus on the back of my neck. Now, I have a couple options here. What I can do is just put pressure by kind of doing a chin tuck and placing some pressure against the peanut. I can add more pressure by bridging up. This is gonna put more load on my neck, and then I can just hang out here, let the tissues loosen up, or I can roll back and forth by going up and down, or I can rotate my neck from side to side once I find restrictions. And from here, you don't wanna create that pain going down into your hand. If you do, you're probably putting a little too much pressure. So find some restrictions, kind of lean into it, rotate side to side, allow those tissues to relax. Do this for about a minute, and then perform this for 1 to 3 times a day. If you don't have a peanut, you can even use a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball and place that on the back of your neck. Same thing, find a spot, you can bridge up, put some more pressure, and then rotate back and forth for a minute, 1 to 3 times a day. So after the neck, the next most common area of entrapment is this pronator teres muscle group. So I'm gonna roll out on that muscle to relax that tissue and allow the nerve to move a little more freely through there. So first, let's find that muscle. I'm gonna pronate and supinate, and under my thumb, I should feel that muscle move back and forth. Now that you've found that muscle, you wanna place that muscle on top of this lacrosse ball here. And then you have a few options here as well. You can roll back and forth, side to side, or you can do like a pin and stretch technique where you put some pressure and then you supinate as you put that pressure on that pronator teres, and then return back and just repeat. If you want to do repetitions, shoot for about 20 reps, or if you're just rolling back and forth, you should do this for about a minute. Now, you should not recreate those symptoms going down your hand. If you are, you're probably putting a little too much pressure. I would back off just a little bit. And I would do this exercise 1 to 3 times a day. Now that we've addressed the proximal mobility, let's focus on targeting mobility local to this area. Let's start with a tendon gliding technique that'll allow for mobility of the tissues that go through that carpal tunnel area. So there are 5 steps to this. First, bring the fingertips towards the base of the finger, then create a fist, Then straighten out your fingers, followed by bringing your fingers down towards the base, and then straighten everything out towards that initial position again. So again, you're not gonna feel too much of a stretch here, but those tendons will move. So we're gonna start with bringing the fingers down towards the base, fist, straighten out, come back down, and then straighten all the way to the top. So you'll do that for about 10 repetitions, again, 1 to 3 times a day. Make sure as you do this, you're not moving your wrist from side to side. You're keeping your wrist neutral as you do this. You're not rotating either. This will ensure that you're targeting those tendons that we want. The second exercise for local mobility is a wrist flexor contract relax technique. So for this exercise, you want to get set up with your arms straight out in front of you, elbow extended, shoulder flexed to about 90 degrees. Now the opposite hand is going to provide some resistance into wrist extension. Start with a very small amount of extension, and you're going to bring your wrist up into flexion just a little bit to activate those muscles. Hold for about 10 seconds. And then as you relax, the opposite hand is going to push slightly into more extension. Be careful, you want to make sure that you don't recreate your symptoms. As you go a little deeper, you're going to push back up hold for 10 seconds, and then relax, let the opposite hand push into extension, and you should allow yourself to slowly get deeper and deeper into wrist extension, and eventually it'll look something like this where you get close to that 90 degrees position. Make sure to avoid going into either side. You want to keep the wrist into straight extension. Don't pronate or supinate either with this. This should really be a wrist flexor stretch that you get with this exercise. Now that we've addressed proximal mobility and local mobility of a lot of the soft tissues, let's now address nerve mobility. Now the first of 2 exercises is going to be a median nerve sliding technique. So I'm going to bring my arm out to the side, elbow extended, my wrists and fingers will go down towards the floor as I bring my head towards that side. And then I'm going to repeat and then go back to the starting position by bringing my head the opposite direction, bending my elbow and bringing my wrist towards me. Now what I'm going to do here is bring the nerve towards me. In this opposite position, I'm bringing the nerve towards my hand. It's a bit of a flossing technique where I'm moving the nerve back and forth and allowing for it to pull and open up through restrictions and improve circulation. So I'm going to bring this, in this position, I'm going to focus on probably getting a stretch in my biceps, maybe a little bit in my forearm. If there's a lot of discomfort in your carpal tunnel area, you can ease off of it just a little bit. And then as you come back into this position, you probably won't feel as much of that tension into the hand. You may feel a bit more of a stretch in the neck. And then you're going to repeat back and forth for about 20 repetitions. And you can perform this 1 to 3 times a day as well. You can also progress the median nerve sliding technique and turn it into a tensioner, where you pull it from both sides. So now you're pulling it from the distal side and stretching it from the proximal side together, and then relaxing and going back and forth. This is a bit of a more aggressive technique, and you will feel more of a stretch if you perform it like this. The final nerve mobility technique is a reverse Phelan stretch. Now this is actually a test that can be used as a diagnostic, but we're going to use it as treatment today. So you're going to bring your hands together, lower them as far as you can, and then try to raise the elbows. As you raise the elbows, what you're going to do is create more wrist extension and create more of a pull in that carpal tunnel area. Now, if you do feel symptoms, you can ease off of it just a little bit and hold this starting with 30 seconds, but work your way up to a 90-second hold and work your way into bringing the elbow up as high as possible. Now, although this is not just targeting the nerve, you're going to target a lot of the soft tissue within that wrist area. You're going to stretch whatever the mobility deficit is, and you're going to eventually improve tolerance into wrist extension. So hold this for up to 90 seconds and also perform this for 1 to 3 times per day. Thanks for sticking around, and hopefully this helps send you in the right direction for beginning to tackle your carpal tunnel syndrome. If you want to learn more, check out the elbow, wrist, and hand rehab program in the Prehab app. Okay, the 3 major takeaways. First, the biomechanics of the carpal tunnel are compromised through repetitive wrist flexion and extension. Modifying, supporting, and breaking up these tasks is crucial to prevent chronic overuse and overload issues in the early stages of rehab. Second, we want to address both regional and local mobility of the neck, elbow, wrist, and hand. We want to use techniques that help improve soft tissue stiffness and range of motion while being mindful of the excessive stretch to the nervous system. Last but not least, we want to graduate to addressing mobility in the nerves, beginning with a slackened sliding technique and progress into positions of tensioning the nervous system. Thanks for tuning in, Prehab. Let us know if you give this a shot. Until next time.
Hey, did you like this video? If you did, you should definitely check out the Prehab app. It includes all of our programs, a brand new workout library, and tons more videos like the one you saw today. Check it out by clicking on this link. You get a free trial. Take control of your health today.